Good afternoon, and welcome all of you to this a little unusual. We're actually having a special meeting, and then we'll have a briefing afterwards here very quickly. And we will, in fact, though, begin our special meeting with a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance that will be led by Vice Chair Wisenhunt. And I'd like to ask you to stand if you're able, and we'll take a few moments, and then she'll say the pledge. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today's special meeting consists solely of the administration of oath of office for Gray Wilson as Forsyth County Commissioner. And as I think everyone in this room knows, that earlier this year, Dave Plyler submitted to me as chairman of the board his resignation as commissioner effective June 30th, 2024. And it is important we need to declare a vacancy on the board, and I'd like to ask for a motion to declare a vacancy on the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board accept Dave Plyler's resignation effective June 30th, 2024, and declare a vacancy on the Board of Commissioners of that date.
I'll second that motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand, please. Motion carries unanimously. Pursuant to the North Carolina General Statutes, Section 153A 27.1, when there is a vacancy on the Board of Commissioners, the remaining members of the board must appoint a qualified person to fill the vacancy. Because Dave Plyler was elected as a Republican to represent District B, the Forsyth County Republican Party Executive Committee members who represent District B may vote to recommend a replacement, and if this is done in a timely fashion, the Board of Commissioners must select the recommended replacement. We did receive a timely notification from Ken Raymond, chairman of the Forsyth County Republican Party, that its executive committee members representing District B met and voted to recommend Gray Wilson, a qualified Republican Party member and resident of District B, as the replacement for Dave Plyler. Is there a motion to appoint Mr. Wilson as Forsyth County Commissioner representing District B?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board accept the recommendation of the Forsyth County Republican Party Executive Committee members representing District B and appoint Gray Wilson as Forsyth County Commissioner representing District B with a term beginning upon his swearing in today and ending upon the seating of the newly elected commissioners in December 2024.
I'll second that motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously. First item on the agenda, and the only item, is the administration of the oath of office by the Honorable Eric Morgan, Superior Court Judge for Gray Wilson as Forsyth County Commissioner. Judge Morgan, please come up, and Gray Wilson, please come up. Absolutely.
And good afternoon, and thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. It is such an honor and privilege to get to administer the oath of office for Commissioner Wilson. As a Superior Court judge, it was one of my favorite duties to administer an oath of office, and I've thought about why that is. Oaths of office are some of the oldest law in North Carolina. They date back to the early 1780s. And then as now, these are moments to reflect on service in the past and on the commitment to serve the community going forward. Gray Wilson's service to this community in the past is remarkable. Gray has been a lieutenant in the United States Army. He's been an attorney in North Carolina for 47 years. He has served as the president of the North Carolina State Bar and the president of the North Carolina Bar Association. Gray's even written a 2-volume authoritative treatise on North Carolina civil procedure that gets cited in my courtroom as Wilson's on Civil Procedure. He served on church committees, he served as Boy Scouts of America, and served in so many ways. And thank you so much, Gray, for your continuing service, for your willingness to take the oath today and your commitment in doing so, to use your abilities, your skill, your experience for the service of the citizens of Forsyth County. At this time, if you're ready to take your oath, accompanied by your wife Cheryl, who's going to be holding the Bible, I'd ask that you place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right, and if you swear and affirm as to this oath, I'll ask you to respond with "I will" when your response is called for. I, Gray Wilson, do solemnly swear that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as County Commissioner of Forsyth County, so help me God.
I will.
I, Gray Wilson, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God.
I will.
I, Gray Wilson, do swear that I will well and truly execute the duties of the office of County Commissioner of Forsyth County according to the best of my skill and ability, according to the law, so help me God.
I will.
Congratulations.
Mr. Wilson, you are welcome to take your place at the podium, at the dais, and we all want to congratulate you. And once you sit down, you're welcome to make a comment or two or anything else you'd like to do.
I have to sign first.
Oh, well. The job isn't over until the paperwork is done. Thank you, Judge.
What? There's more?
There's more.
And while he's taking his seat, a reception will be held in honor of Commissioner Wilson at 3:30 p.m. after the conclusion of today's briefing. And we would invite any and all of you who could attend to join us. And Commissioner Wilson, if you'd like to say anything, you may. Not a requirement at all. You're happy to. I think all of us might want to congratulate you for a moment. And when we finish that, we're actually going to take a 5-minute recess for our computer folks to set up for the briefing.
You will never find a lawyer who won't comment when given the opportunity. I will say before I wax irreverent that I'm honored by this position more than I can say and more than I can imagine. And I thank everyone who supported me in this endeavor. I especially wanted to thank Judge Morgan for taking time from his busy trial schedule. He's had a large trial docket this year so far to come over and assist me in this process. This commission does have an inordinate fondness for ceremony, I have noted. And just a couple of weeks ago, the county manager was sworn in into her new position. And I learned at that time that she holds the dubious world record for speed reading out loud and I will try to emulate that efficiency on her part. I have come to respect this commission more during the last 7 or 8 months as a candidate for public office. Anyone who launches into that endeavor finds out why often good people are not interested in running for public office. It is certainly a challenge, and that challenge remains. I could be the shortest lived county commissioner here in recent history because there's a general election in November, which I still have to pass muster at. I want to tell you that this was not something done on my own. This was a team effort. A number of my campaign committee members are here today, and I'm so grateful to them. I certainly wish that Richard Bennett, the campaign manager, whom most of these commissioners know because we worked to get a new courthouse here in that lovely facility next door for a number of years, but he was so disloyal that he went to Seattle on family mission, but I have forgiven him. I wanted to just say that there's so many that I owe in this regard, in addition to Richard, and I can't name them all, but a couple of here. Certainly I want to acknowledge my daughter Haley, who handled all of the bookkeeping and all of the hard work to keep everyone in line throughout this ordeal. My administrative assistant, Loretta Tracy, is back there, and she keeps me out of trouble, and I'm grateful to her for that. Next to her is the managing partner, Denise Gunter of our firm, who was kind enough to come here today. But certainly there was no one more important than my wife, Cheryl, who has stood by me throughout this ordeal. And I did do the dishes this morning, and I wanted you to be aware of that. Okay, I did one dish, okay? I think people that know me know that I'm not a potted plant, but I'm not a bomb thrower either. If you practice law for 47 years, you learn that there are rational and intelligent ways to arrive at decisions that are for the betterment of this community. And that's what I'm dedicated to trying to do in this instance, and to do it in a collaborative approach with the other members of the commission, whom I know for the most part and respect. The staff here have been very gracious and kind to me throughout the orientation process for this, and I appreciate all of their great assistance. I survived a national meeting in Tampa last weekend of county commissioners. If you can imagine that many politicians running around loose in the same location, and I'm grateful to be here because on Saturday night the chair of the commission took me to what could charitably be described as the outskirts of Tampa, to a restaurant where we actually had to ask someone in the neighborhood where the door to the restaurant was. But we survived that as well.
It was authentic.
Okay. So there is more to do here between now and November, but my first love and my first business will be here with this commission, and I will give it my best. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, I'll give an opportunity for anyone who'd like to say anything, but I would like to introduce our sheriff here, Sheriff Bobby Kimbrough in the back. Good, Sheriff. And I'd like to introduce Judge Morgan's wife, Dawn Morgan, who is the mayor of Kernersville. So, Dawn, we're always pleased to see you. And I'll certainly say welcome, and if anybody else would like, I will not speak for folks. If anybody else would like to add a welcome, that'd be great.
I'll just say welcome, happy to have you.
I would just like to introduce myself, Commissioner Melise Shea Woodbury. Everyone calls me Shay, and I look forward to getting to know you and working with you. And I would be less than authentic if I didn't say I checked around in the community. Who is Gray Wilson? And he's smart, he's fair, and he wants to work with others to get the right things done for Forsyth County. So thank you so much for your commitment to serve.
Welcome, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson gave me permission to call him by his first name, but I haven't determined which one of us is the older, so until I do, I will still call him Mr. Wilson.
Commissioner Wilson, thank you to getting to know you this weekend as well. And I welcome you to the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners, sir.
And for the public record, I'll simply repeat what I said directly a moment ago. Welcome to the commission, sir.
Thanks, Dan.
Good, it's been great. We'll take a 5-minute recess and folks can mill around while we turn 3:30. It's a pleasure to call to order the briefing session for Thursday, July 25th, 2024. We had a morning briefing this morning, we have those about every other month, and we actually briefed 4 items in some detail. So we have no additional briefing items, and we have no discussion items. So we're ready to look at the agenda for the July 25th meeting. All righty. Let's turn the meeting over to our County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, Commissioners, staff, and guests. Agenda item number 1 is a public hearing on the petition to close an unopened right-of-way off Colchester Drive and an order closing an unopened right-of-way off Colchester Drive. Shaylee Bowen, our Map Forsyth Director, will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Let me get this presentation up really quickly. Okay, so on May 14th, Map Forsyth received a petition from Mr. Johnny Gross. The request was to close a portion of undeveloped recorded right-of-way in unincorporated area of Forsyth County. So the area that he's requesting to be closed is approximately 200 feet by 60 feet. It's off Colchester Drive and is between 2701 Colchester Drive, which is his property, and 2695 Colchester Drive, which is Mr. Johnson's property, his neighbor. This is the plat from 1975 that dedicates that right-of-way, and here is a zoomed-in version. Right here in the yellow is where that right-of-way is located. You can see in this satellite imagery that it is undeveloped grassland between Mr. Gross and Mr. Johnson. And then here is the street view version of this. It's along this tree line. The signs that were posted of July 3rd to notify the residents of the public hearing. Mr. Gross did send certified mail notices to his neighbors, as well as posts for 3 weeks in the Winston-Salem Journal. And then the City County Planning Department determined that there would be no negative impacts to closing this right-of-way. Are there any questions?
I think we're good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 2 is a resolution recognizing the 50th anniversary of the Preventative Dental Health Program at the Department of Public Health. Staff will be here next week to receive this item. Agenda item number 3 is a resolution recognizing August 1st through 7th as National WIC Breastfeeding Week, and staff will be here to receive the resolution next week. And agenda item number 4 is a resolution authorizing execution of an opioid settlement with the Kroger Company and approving the second supplemental agreement for additional funds between the state of North Carolina and local governments on proceeds relating to the settlement of opioid litigation. Our County Attorney, Gordon Watkins, will brief this item.
I am almost there. I don't see the button. Okay, thank you. Thank you, appreciate it. All right. So what we have before you that the board will vote on next week is the acceptance of the third wave of settlement, which only involves the Kroger Company in the opioid settlements. And I'm just going to go through a quick background of how we got here for some of the commissioners who haven't been here since 2018. Brief history is in 2018, Forsyth County, along with quite a few other counties and municipalities and attorneys general, sued opioid manufacturers, distributors, and pharmacies based upon their roles in beginning and prolonging the opioid epidemic. By 2020, we were told that the Purdue Pharma settlement was coming any day now. So as we know, that still hasn't happened, but the settlements were getting close. And so in North Carolina, we formed a 555 committee, the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, which consisted of 5 commissioners, 5 managers, and 5 county attorneys to negotiate North Carolina's portion of the settlement agreement. We were one of just a handful of states who really
jumped on that early. So in the depths of the pandemic, when there were only about 5 or 6 people working in this building, I drafted a one-page framework for the settlement. And what was included in there was that the great majority of the North Carolina settlement would come directly to counties and cities, mostly counties. The allocation model would be the multi-district litigation model. Each local government would hold the settlement funds in a special revenue fund to guarantee that the funds would only go to pay for opioid uses and wouldn't be commingled, and that litigating and non-litigating parties would be treated equitably. And so it only took 18 months, but there were negotiations between the NCACC, the Department of Justice, national and local outside counsel, and we were able to come up with the Memorandum of Agreement, the MOA, which incorporated everything in my framework. We are unique among all states in the country that 85% of settlement funds go directly to local governments. They don't go mostly to the state. They don't go to foundations. A lot of other states are having a hard time spending the opioid money because it's sitting somewhere and nobody really knows how to get at it. The MOA, in addition, requires a robust reporting and monitoring mechanism. You can go online and you can see where all the counties, how they're spending their money and what they're doing with their money. So the original MOA just covered 3 major distributors and the manufacturer Johnson & Johnson. It also included various bankruptcy proceedings. That was roughly $750 million for the entire state of North Carolina. A year later, 2022-23, was the second wave of settlements, which involved mostly the pharmacies, the large pharmacies, CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, and a couple of manufacturers, Teva and Allergan. And so the way it works, each agreement, the MOA, dealt with specific defendants. So each time there's another wave, we have to pass a document that incorporates the MOA. And so that was called the Supplemental Agreement for Additional Funds, or SAFE, SAAF. And so that really just incorporated the original MOA. So the terms of the settlement really aren't changing with each wave of settlement. So in the first 2 waves, Forsyth County's portion of that was $35.6 million over 18 years. And so the third wave of the settlement, which we're bringing to you this month, is Kroger. And you might ask, what does Kroger have to do with North Carolina? Well, Kroger owns a number of grocery stores across the country, including Harris Teeter. And so in that original picture, you could see one of the things it said was pharmacy. So Harris Teeter has pharmacies. And so they have a national settlement for states that have Kroger-owned grocery stores. And so again, we'll have to have another agreement, which is SAAF 2, which again just incorporates the terms of the original Memorandum of Agreement. So the allocations among the different cities and counties, they're all the same percentage-wise. Forsyth County will receive an additional $1,047,000 over the next 10 years. And so the total for all 3 of these waves for Forsyth County is now up to $36,782,000 over 18 years. So what's really important about this are the lives that have been saved, and here's some of the uses of opioid funds, which you've seen. Deputy Manager Price has been deeply involved with this along with the county manager. So in last fiscal year, you authorized almost $2 million for 18 projects. This fiscal year, you've authorized over $3.3 million for 25 projects. So together, that's over $5 million of spending to address the concerns here. And so the 2 pictures, you may not be able to make those out, but the first one is the naloxone vending machine, which people can go and get free Narcan, brand name for naloxone, to treat someone who has suffered from an opioid overdose. And below that is a picture of the mobile integrated health team who goes, to help people on site who have suffered, an overdose, but also they follow up. They connect people to resources and they follow up with folks. So we've funded recovery support services, medication-assisted treatment, which is also called MAT, naloxone distribution, harm reduction, mobile integrated health. We're working with SciTech to train addiction professionals and also prevention programs. So, that's the good that's really coming out of this. So just wanted to give you all a brief background on this. I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Any questions for our attorney? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 5 is a personnel matter that I've spoken with, I believe, most of you on, and it's a resolution granting a hardship exception for our airport director. And Commissioner Wilson, I can brief you on this item individually, if there's any questions on that. Okay. Agenda item number 6 is approval of the minutes for the meeting of June 27th. Madam Clerk, have these been emailed out?
Yes, ma'am, they have.
Thank you. Agenda item number 7 is a resolution awarding a contract for the purchase of 11 Ford Interceptor police pursuit vehicles, and this item will be briefed by our General Services Director, Scott Angel.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Board. The Sheriff's Office has requested the purchase of 11 police pursuit vehicles to take the place of 11 vehicles recommended for replacement in fiscal year 25. The Sheriff's Office desires to purchase Ford Interceptor police pursuit vehicles as the replacements. And I believe most, if not all, the vehicles to be replaced are Dodge Chargers that have reached the end of their useful life. Staff researched the availability of the Interceptor and determined it is available under the terms of the bid awarded by the State Contract Purchasing Program to Capital Ford. Fleet staff engaged Capital Ford and found the dealer currently has Interceptors in inventory, available for purchase, and is currently taking orders for the vehicles. So staff recommends accepting the bid offered by Capital Ford for the 2024 all-wheel drive V6 Ford Interceptor police pursuit vehicle and options as described in contract 2510A awarded by the state. And I'll note that the recommended Interceptors are the same as the 4 units approved by the board at the May 16th meeting, so it's the same vehicle, same option, same price. So based on Capital Ford's bid, each Interceptor has a base unit cost of $41,203.20. Cost of options is $1,146.80. for a total unit cost of $42,350. And the overall cost for the 11 Interceptors is $465,850. So this resolution awards a contract to Capital Ford Incorporated for the purchase of 11 Ford Interceptor police pursuit vehicles and associated options in the total not to exceed amount of $465,850. So with that, there's Sheriff's Office staff here along with me if you have any questions.
Any questions for Scott?
Thank you, sir.
Good. Thank you.
Agenda item number 8 is a resolution authorizing the fiscal year 25 purchase of pharmaceuticals by the Forsyth County Pharmacy. Our Deputy Manager, Denise Price, will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So you may recall just a few weeks ago, we had a similar item on the agenda. It was for fiscal year 24 purchases. This particular item seeks authorization for purchasing of pharmaceuticals for the fiscal year 25. We purchase 3 types of medications: generics, over-the-counters, and brand name medications. We also participate with an organization, it's called MCAP Infuse, and it is a collective purchasing agreement with the state of Minnesota, for which all of our states in the United States participate. So what it does is it gives us the purchasing, leveraging the purchasing power of all of that volume of work, which allows us to buy our brand name medications at a lower price. They don't run sales on the brand names. You have to buy a lot of them in volume to get a lower cost. So we use MCAP Infuse, and MCAP Infuse has a number of wholesalers. The wholesaler that we purchase those drugs from historically has been Cardinal Health. That is also our state vendor for the state of North Carolina. In terms of our brand name and over-the-counter medications, medications, anytime an order is made, we look at 3 wholesalers minimally and purchase from the lowest cost. That allows us to stretch our dollars as very far as we can to get the most as possible. You will notice probably that these dollars are a little bit higher than in prior years, and I want to give you an explanation as to why. We are purchasing naloxone that you authorized through the use of settlement dollars, and also this year we added medications to treat opioid use disorder, also that were funded through settlement dollars. Be happy to answer any questions.
Maybe I have just one. In terms of the sources of revenue that pays for all these, you mentioned 2. I mean, got a couple items that opioid settlement
Right.
dollars can be paid for. How many of these are just, are there some state dollars involved? What are the other
They're
sources
not.
of dollars?
They're
Just
not.
all
They're-
local, except for the opioid dollars?
It is some local. There is also some MOE dollars associated with this, behavioral health MOE dollars. And then also, when we dispense medications, we bill for those medications. So we participate in most insurers, Medicaid, Medicare. Medicaid is a large source of revenue that helps to offset these costs as well.
So if you get down to local dollars, how many are there, do you think, that are not MOE dollars or opioid
So
dollars?
for inventory purchase specifically, we're covering those. There are some costs associated with the pharmacy operation that are county dollars.
And for Commissioner Wilson, MOE is maintenance of effort, which is something we have to maintain in mental health funds. And so there.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 9 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement between Forsyth County and Wake Forest University Baptist Medical Center for mammography screening, chest x-ray, and diagnostic services. Our nursing program manager, Aaron Sheldon, will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The Forsyth County Department of Public Health received $35,900 from the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services Division of Cancer Protection and Control to provide breast cancer and cervical cancer screening for low-income women, and we define that as those who earn below 250% of the federal poverty level. If necessary, the Department of Public Health may refer patients to other healthcare providers for further diagnostic testing than what we can offer on site. This contract with Wake Forest University Baptist Medical Center provides mammography and chest x-ray screening and diagnostic services as outlined under Agreement Addendum 452. This contract is not to exceed $115,000, with $35,900 funded from North Carolina DHHS funds and $79,100 from the County Department of Public Health budgeted funds.
The one question I have is this a 3-year or just 1-year project? 1
So
year?
this is a one-year contract.
Well, 1 year. Is there a reason we did not bid that? I mean, obviously, Forsyth has women's centers. I'm just kind of curious about why we don't get proposals from those who could deliver it. And now Cone Health is beginning to have a presence in the community and others. Is there a reason we don't bid that?
I do not know the answer to that, sir, but I am happy to find out for you.
We'll follow up on that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
My question is, how many women will this be able to serve? And in that service, how will they connect and know that the service is available?
Okay, so we call this our BSEP program, our Breast and Cervical Cancer Screening Prevention Program. And so each year we're awarded monies to see a certain number of women, and for this coming year, it's going to be 120 women. So we receive dollars for those women to provide the diagnostic services that they need. So most of these women are referred to us from outside providers. A lot of our free clinics in our community refer women, but also if we have someone who we identify in our family planning program, then they also become eligible to take advantage of those services.
Awesome, excellent, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just to confirm, then I assume that we're talking about referrals from the population of either the un- or the underinsured.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Agenda item number 10 is Ms. Sheldon's as well. It's a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement with Wake Forest University Baptist Medical Center for medical director services at the Forsyth County Department of Public Health.
So under the Forsyth County Department of Public Health's consolidated agreement with the North Carolina DHHS, Forsyth County Health Department must retain the services of a physician licensed to practice medicine in North Carolina to provide regular medical consultations. This contract with Wake Forest University Baptist Medical Center provides this service for our OBGYN/family planning program, infectious disease, and laboratory services. This agreement is effective from July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2027. So it is a 3-year contract, and total payments are not to exceed $582,912.
I probably got the same question I had as the first one. It's about, this is a new 3-year contract.
Yes, sir,
And
this
I'm-
is a
And I'm kind of curious
3-year.
why that's not also bid. And is it also not true that we have a medical director that works with emergency services?
That is
So
correct.
That's a,
That
and we
is-
just renegotiated something different, and that's, I think that, is that not, when I read this, it talks about the state requiring, every county must have a licensed physician, a medical director. Well, we've got one for, does the one we have for emergency services obviously doesn't count, or does, and this looks like a lot of services for OBGYN services, et cetera, in these, and no directorship, something state requirement here. I'm a little confused about that, and again, confused about why we don't consider other proposals for those.
So, Mr. Chairman, I will have to check on the last time we've bid for public health. That is a valid point. I know we have in the past bid between Atrium and Novant, at least on the emergency services side, and Atrium came back cheaper. That's not to say that is what it is today. So duly noted, we certainly could do a 1-year contract this year to get us through and then make sure that we bid the services. But to answer your question, the medical director for emergency services specializes in emergency services and would not meet the requirements for public health. And the last caveat I will say is a long time ago, public health director was a physician and was able to meet that requirement. But the board decided at the time to do contracts for the services. And again, that's something we could look at some point. Doesn't have to be the public health director, but could be someone on staff that's a physician.
Yeah, when I read through, I just sort of literally scanned the services listing, and an awful lot of these are not director-type tasks. They're other services. And seems like there ought to be, if the medical director for emergency services doesn't meet the state requirement for medical director, it looks like that would be a different sort of proposal, and then these other services would also be different. I was kind of looking for that and didn't see, and the proposal does not split out any, I mean, this is kind of the agreement, but it doesn't split out what the individual component cost of all these different, so there is one schedule of fees. It was a series of fees, no, it's not in this one, of fees. So I'm just a little concerned about that, particularly with another new 3-year proposal.
Yes, sir. We'll follow up. We'll send a memo to the board with more details. And what I would say is if we could just do a 1-year contract, that'll at least get us through this year, and we certainly can reevaluate the services this upcoming year.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Agenda item number 11 is a resolution selecting and authorizing execution of a contract with SNME, Inc. to provide construction materials testing and special inspection services for the Tanglewood Clubhouse project. Our design and construction manager, James Anderson, will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The item before you selects and authorizes execution of a contract with SNME to provide construction materials testing and special inspection services for the Tanglewood Clubhouse project. SNME was selected by an RFQ process advertised by City County Purchasing, with responses being received from SNME, Kleinfelder, GeoHydro Engineers, Summit Engineering, and ECS. A selection committee comprised of general services staff identified SNME as the most qualified firm for the project, taking into account experience, staff availability, and conformance to the RFQ requirements. Staff have negotiated a not-to-exceed fee of $140,000 for services and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I have, again, I was surprised that there was not a list, because you had a number of potential providers, and what we got was a recommendation of this sort of the best one, but I'd love to see what the fees were for all those others. I mean, they do, I mean, materials testing is not it's not super, I mean, it's specialized in one sense, but all those firms, I assume, do that. And I have expressed on several occasions my sort of unhappiness with a vague sort of, it's kind of like that's who we've worked with before issue, and not the issue of at hand, which really looks at cost, and also, and really does a vetting of the other agencies. I mean, talking references, I mean, we're looking for the best price and value. And from what I read, it didn't suggest best price and value to me. It just says, well, we kind of think this is it.
Right.
Those kind of RFPs and interpretations really bother me.
So we're bound by state statute that we have to select the services based upon qualifications. We cannot make a selection based upon fee. If it's under $50,000, then we can do a mini Brooks exemption and ask for fee proposals. But if services are estimated to be over $50,000, we have to select based upon qualifications.
Well, that sounds like the AIA kind of documents for architects, which are certainly supposed to be based on qualifications. But I think the package that includes the fees that are charged is a piece of the whole puzzle. I mean, that's not, in other words, what if everybody is equally qualified? Then the fees make a difference? Well, yep, particularly because you can't, I mean, qualifications deal with, you have this kind of, credentials, you have these kind of engineers, this kind of staff, this kind of whatever. Have you done this other places? Have you done those? Once you're able to verify those, then what kind of becomes I can easily see how you could reject some, but what if you have 3 people that all meet the requirements?
That's where really it comes down to looking at their availability, looking at how many projects they currently have on the books and what their staff availability is. And so that was the ultimate determination in this one, is that SNME, had the staffing availability for this one, because it went out in conjunction with 2 other projects. And so, looking at that for the staffing on all 3 of them was the determining factor.
Good. And so where are they located?
SNME is located in Greensboro.
Was there a local bidder in that group?
ECS has a office, or they had an office in Clemens. I need to look and see if they still have that operational or not. But typically the inspectors have been sent out of the Greensboro or more towards the Raleigh region for the inspectors.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions?
Agenda item number 12 is also Mr. Anderson's. It's a resolution awarding a contract to Brooks Lumber Company doing business as Brooks General Contractors for the Annex 1 Auditorium renovation project.
This item is to award a contract to Brooks Lumber Company. This project was formally bid by Senate County Purchasing, and we received 6 bids on May 21st. Brooks Lumber Company submitted a bid of $272,820. A&M Construction submitted a bid of $325,624. Bar Construction Company submitted a bid of $343,800. WC Construction submitted a bid of $360,000. MWM Construction submitted a bid of $399,116. And Lomax Construction submitted a bid of $428,800. There was also a bid alternate to do some additional work on the project. And since the bids came in under budget, we have elected to do that bid alternate. So we're recommending a contract be awarded to Brooks Lumber Company for the base bid of $272,820 plus accepting alternate 1 in the amount of $18,400 for a total contract amount of $291,220. In Brooks' bid, they did indicate that they did not meet the 10% MWB participation goal. So the MWB's committee was held to review the good faith efforts and was determined that they made a good faith effort. The project is ARPA funded and has a budget of $450,000. And the resolution also authorizes the county manager to sign change orders in an amount not to exceed $25,000. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Questions?
James, I don't have questions, but I do have comments. I just wanted to say, knowing that they did not meet that WBE goal, in the future, we need to be mindful of that. And I also want this organization to know to try to at least continue that good faith effort.
Certainly.
Thank you.
I would just say to supplement Commissioner McDaniel's comments, I think we should even go a step further, that if you can't commit to MWBE or don't know how to, then, that's just the standard now in the world of construction and meeting the needs of state legislatures. So I think that I would like to see the reason why they could not meet MWBE expectations, in all fairness to them. But I just, I've been hearing that for a very long time, since I've been on the school board and I the county commissioner, and I just think that as a governmental entity, we just have to hold a strict standard around MWBE. So I would definitely request, before we have the meeting to vote on this, to see why they couldn't meet MWBE.
Okay. And I can get the copy of their good faith effort and the review documents that we had, and I can get that to the clerk to share with you all.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
And also, just for clarification for the board, some of the other contractors were able to meet it. Their cost was just higher. And so it's really a board decision. Do you want to go with the lowest bidder, or do you want to ensure that we meet the MWBE goal? And we're certainly happy to do whatever the board so chooses.
So, I think the mindset is something that I would love to trigger. And at times, we may need to take the larger suggestion rather than the cheaper one, just to send a message. So I'm okay with doing that in the future, but again, communicating our thoughts is important to me. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, we need to be careful that we're following the law here. The requirement is that the bidder makes a good faith effort. The requirement is not a quota of 10% as much as we might want that to happen. So we can't just reject a bidder who has made a good faith effort.
That's fair, but we don't know what that good faith effort was or what it looked like. So I would, along with Commissioner Woodbury, like to know what that looked like. Thank you.
Well, that committee has certain rules that they go by. I'm sure that you could go to the committee meetings if you wanted to. I'm very dedicated to this committee and the work they do.
Well, you've got a report, and sharing it would be great.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. The next three agenda items will be briefed by our tax assessor and collector, John Burgess, or not, our deputy tax assessor collector, Mike Pollack. And it's a resolution approving the tax collector's annual settlement for fiscal year 23-24 and prior years. And then 14 and 15 is an order of the Board of County Commissioners in accordance with various statutes for the collection of 2023 and prior years taxes, and then for the collection of 2024 taxes.
Chair Martin, while they're sitting up, could we confirm whether that, for item number 12 under contracts, is that an ARPA-related project? Did I hear?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This year we decided to do this presentation as a team effort. So I'll be beginning the presentation, and John will be coming up to wrap up towards the end. We've provided the official settlement to you electronically, and that's about 300 pages. But you'll be pleased to know that we're not going through each of those 300 pages individually today. This is just a summary of the details, and we're going to cover the efforts related to enforced collection. All right. So a couple of important things. This is required by statute, the settlement, and it's, the settlement must be accepted before the tax collector may be charged with the next tax levy for the 2024 bills, so the order of these resolutions is important. External factors do affect our ability to collect. They're similar to last year, except for the current dollars affected by bankruptcy is $85,000 less than last year. Our collection division took in 77,000 payments by mail or in person, and 98,000 payments came electronically, the bulk of those being electronic mortgage files. We also want to acknowledge the assessment workload. Good and correct ownership and value support our collection work. There were over 324,000 vehicles processed through VTS, and that's stable. It's about $3,000 or 3,000 vehicles less than last year. The informal appeals, that's just a process that comes up during a reappraisal year. And in my position currently, I rotate to manage in different divisions. And so I'm currently in real estate working on the 2025 reappraisal. So we had 126 BR appeals to handle this year, but I have suspicion they'll be higher next year. And there are 43,000 calls that were handled this year. That's about 4,000 less than last year, but that's still an average of 175 calls a day. And again, with the reappraisal, that should be higher next year. And calculating the collection rate, we don't pull out bankruptcies, discoveries, or foreclosure, anything like that. There's a hard cutoff day on June 30th. So we even had an employee working on the weekend of June 30th processing electric payments that were coming in up until the final time.
Madam Clerk, we lost access to the presentation.
Okay. We collect for all the municipalities and fire districts, and so that's about $490.5 million annually levy when you look at all those together. For the Forsyth annual levy, it's $281.3 million. And so for that levy, there was 93.5% of those, that money was collected timely, so we appreciate all those taxpayers that paid timely. But that left $18.6 million on the table that were left for our collectors. And our staff collected over 89% of the money that was left by June 30th. Now, I'm sure you want to know what's our official collection rate. So to end the suspense, is 99.29%. We're very pleased with that. It's our fourth highest for Forsyth County ever. It's the 9th consecutive year at 90% that our collectors were able to achieve. And we're very grateful for our terrific staff and for the board. You know, you provide the tools and the resources that we need to collect the money. And for the hardworking public that provide the funds, and where it's a pleasure to work and serve them. We have some staff members here today. In the back row, we have several collectors and a couple of managers here with us. just representing the rest of our staff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There are some protected dollars that we can't pursue. Those are related to bankruptcy, active appeals, and foreclosures. And so the adjusted collection rate, we just look at if we did collect those dollars, then it would have changed the collection rate to 99.41%. So you can just see what that $330,000 in county revenue does to the collection rate. This is looking at the last 5 years. Again, you'll see it's 99% or above. It takes over $28,000 in county levy to move the collection rate just 0.01%. So our collectors are very familiar with that because they work very hard to move that as high as it can be done by June 30th. This is the municipal collection rates. They're similar to last year. 3 of those increased. But one of our goals is jurisdictional awareness. We're not only the collector for Forsyth County, but we're also the collector for all the municipalities. And so we keep that in mind. The staff collected 30% of the prior year taxes. And that's fairly typical. Every year, the collectors work their delinquent list down to the last dollar, and our techniques and processes continue to work through all of the prior years. This is the prior years for the municipalities. These numbers vary wildly year to year. 4 out of the 10 increased over last year. If you add the money collected from the fiscal year that just ended for the prior tax year and add it to the other prior tax years, that leaves just under $5 million to collect. And here's some good news. When you look at the 2014 year that just rolled out of charge by a statute, that's $146,000, which represents a 99.93% collection rate for the 2014 tax year. So the efforts over time, the efforts of our staff and Healthy Foreclosure Program, there's very little dollars that go uncollected. And with that, I'll turn it over to John.
Thank you, Mike. Good afternoon. So one of the other requirements that we have for the tax settlement is to inform you of our efforts in enforced collections of collecting those past due amounts. And so this is a slide you've seen before. It certainly gives you the details of how we go about collecting taxes. Please note that there's certainly a lot of asterisks all over the page, and that's because we can use multiple techniques at the same time to collect money. And so we know that different techniques were performed to collect this money. Pretty much from top to bottom, that's our typical order that we'd like to go in as far as enforced collection techniques. This particular year, debt set-off, rent garnishments, and foreclosures have increased, while wage garnishments have decreased as compared to last year. Bank attachments are about the same as well. You may have noticed in today's paper, actually, there's 10 foreclosure advertisements in there for July 31st sale that we'll have. And we have another sale August 14th and another one on September 6th. This slide talks about really the county cash flow in total. And so when you account for all the property tax revenues, even including the registered motor vehicle taxes that are not in my charge, property tax collections exceeded budgeted amounts by almost $3.8 million last year. So we're happy to be able to report that. That's about 1.2% over budget. That's the kind of over budget you want on revenues, right? So as far as our goals are concerned, these pretty much remain similar to previous years. We really do like to focus on how we engage with the public. The collection rate, we certainly are very proud of that and proud of our staff. But the thing that I like to emphasize the most is about how we engage with the public. And to me, that's the most special thing that we do. And if you would allow us, I'd like next week, Tisha Leach is one of our senior tax managers. And if she could, maybe just give a couple minutes next week to kind of tell you a little bit her rendition of the year and our team's efforts over the past year, if that'd be all right. I'd like for you to be able to hear from her in her own perspective there. I appreciate you doing that. That wraps up our presentation for today. The other things of notice, our tax bills for 2024 will go out on July 26th. That'll be a week from tomorrow. The day after that you would authorize us to you'd charge me with the collection of those taxes. And so Mike and I are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mike or John? Always a very good presentation, and I guess, yes, they're all ladies in the back of the row there. Thank you all for your hard work. I'm just trying to wrap my heads around 171 calls a day on the average, and I'm sure at different times of the year, it's probably 300 calls coming in with callbacks and so forth and all those kind of things. So that's a lot of work, and I think you have a great reputation for engaging with the public in a very positive, professional manner. And these are the folks paying the bills to kind of for our county to get their work done, and that's certainly very, very important. But pretty phenomenal. I don't know how you compare to the other urbans, but my guess is there are not too many people doing any better, if any, on the percent collection.
Whenever you are comparing us, I do appreciate it if you recognize they might not all calculate their rate the same, but certainly there are some counties that certainly do have a higher collection rate than us. But the thing that I like to go back to is how we engage with the public. And so part of our measure of success is we have a great collection rate in our opinion, but also the fact that you really don't get a lot of phone calls about our activities. And so to me, that combination, I think we're striking the right balance. We've got a really newer staff of revenue collectors this year, and that's why I wanted Tisha to kind of come just say something to you about that. They're working great as a team, and we've got a lot of them going out knocking on doors, making people in the community aware. Foreclosure, we talk about foreclosure a lot. I want everybody to know it is our last resort. And so that I hope goes without being said, but we end up talking about it because it's a longer process and it's very involved and it can be serious. Last year, about 100 accounts were advertised to be auctioned, but actually only about 60-some properties actually were sold. So when you think about almost 1,000 properties in foreclosure at a given moment, so that can take years, the fact that only about 60 to 70 or so a year are sold really shows you the success that we have in actually just collecting the money that was due. So we are proud of that, but it's also about how we engage with the public, and so I hope you like the results and the combination of our efforts. So, thank you.
All of us do, for sure. Thank you all. Thank you.
John, I'd like to say with Chairman Martin, thank you, ladies and gentlemen as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
The other two items that the manager talked about, those are typically just charging me with collection of the next year's taxes and what are now prior year taxes. So, okay.
Thank you, John. Mr. Chairman, all I have left is a closed session motion.
All right.
Okay. I need to ask the board to consider a motion to go into closed session to discuss a matter relating to the location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area served by the public body, including agreement on a tentative list of economic development incentives that may be offered by the public body in negotiations pursuant to the provisions of North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A4. And since there is no other business to come before the board at this meeting, following the closed session, the meeting will be adjourned.
Move approval.
Motion to go into closed session by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. I'm sorry. All righty. Thank you. We're adjourned. Well, we're going to closed session.